everyone, and welcome to the For Fun of Knit podcast. I'm Linda. I am your host. If this is your first time checking out the For Fun of Knit podcast, thank you so much, and I hope you enjoy. For those of you that are returning, wonderful welcome. Big hug to all of you. This is a knitting podcast, fiber podcast about anything that I dabble in. It's my adventures and misadventures with crafting, predominantly knitting though, although this might give something away. But no social or political commentary here. The world events can stay outside of this podcast. I think we're all pretty much inundated with what's going on in the world. Some of it's good, a lot of it's not. So this is a space where I really aspire just to keep you company while you're knitting. And if you put me in the background as background noise while you're knitting away, that's wonderful. If you're, watching every single thing, trying not to miss anything, that's awesome too. I tend to run a little bit long, over an hour or so, just because I talk a lot, I guess, but feel free to pause, put me away, come back next week, watch 20 minutes more, whatever works for you. This is a podcast. I have the occasional alcoholic beverage, so if that's triggering for you, please, just be advised. Tonight, I'm actually having a glass of Cabernet Sauvignon and enjoying my evening. And I might swear on occasion. I try not to, though. I mean, my favorite word is fustercluck. And that's not how you say that word, but that's how I prefer to say it. So anyway, that's pretty much, I'm coming to you from South Surrey, which is about 45 minutes southeast of Vancouver, British Columbia, Canada. And welcome. Anyway, this is currently October 1st, and I was hoping to get this out already, but life just happens. So I am hoping to do Vlogtober, not every day, but once a week. So if I stick to that, it will be an amazing feat. So, and of course, the episodes will be a little bit shorter, but really, I just want to share with you what I'm working on, what's working, what's not, what I've learned, because every single project I touch, I learn something new. Every person that I interact with, either through this podcast, other podcasts, my newly established knitting buddies, that we meet once a week, I just learn so much. And I do believe that is some of the appeal for me in this particular medium. I'm going to consider it art because I think it is art. I just learned so much, and it really pleases my brain, to always be expanding and learning and sharing. That's kind of the fun thing. So grab your knitting, grab whatever beverage, alcoholic or non-alcoholic, all good. And let's talk a little bit about finished objects, some works in progress. Oh, I know, this is so exciting. I might go over some acquisitions, and certainly want to nail down my Stephen West Mystery Cal yarn choices. So this is a hint down here. You'll see them. But that's certainly sort of the color wheelhouse that I'm working in. But I've nailed them down, and so just want to share those with you before the Cal starts. I'm hoping, so Thursday, today is Sunday, October 1st. You'll probably see this on Monday or later. The Cal starts, I think the first clue drops on Thursday, October 6th. It's called the Twists and Turn. Is it called the Twists and Turn? I hope so. Mystery Cal. So there's definitely going to be cabling and some other things in the shawl pattern. But I'll get into that in a little bit later in the scheduled program. So first of all, what am I wearing? Okay. guys, ladies, gals, guys, I'm so stoked about this little gem. It might not seem like anything to anybody but me, but I have in my life crocheted a granny square, which you saw, and I crocheted a rabbit from Toft. And that is the extent of my crochet. And then one of my new knitting friends, Jackie, came to our knitting session in this beautiful scrappy crocheted sweater, more of a fingering weight or a DK weight, I think. And it was just gorgeous. And I asked her, I said, oh, how did you do that? She goes, well, I just started crocheting and, you know, I didn't really have a formula, but it's not all that hard. And I thought, you know, I have got to try. I've got to try. So, finished object number 1 is this sweater. I can't, sorry. It's a little cropped. I think you can see it, but longish, just normal wrist length sleeves. And because I've never crocheted a garment or really crocheted, I looked at a few videos, and if I remember to put them down here at the bottom, I will do that. I just cast on or chained 52 stitches, and no, that wasn't anybody's pattern. I just chained until I felt, okay, that looks like the right neck sort of width. And then I looked at a sweater crochet thing on YouTube and saw that they had done a front and back post border to sort of mimic. I don't know that you can see this. I don't know if you can see this or not. So this is a front post, and this is inside here is a back post, front post, back post. And it kind of mimics ribbing in knitting. And so I wanted to do that. So I tried that, and you can't really see it with the marling here. You can see it a little bit better on this cuff. You can, yeah, see the marling kind of washes it away, but this cuff you can sort of see it. And then I just followed the instructions, and the instructions didn't work. So, and some of my knitting friends can attest to this. I showed up one Friday afternoon last Friday afternoon, I guess, not just a day ago, but a week ago Friday. I showed up and I had done the yoke and I was working on the body, and it was just huge. It was turning into this A-line tent. Because I did not know, I don't know anything about crochet. I don't know about keeping your stitch count and which hole you're supposed to put your needle in or your hook in or anything like that. So anyway, bless you, June. She goes, Linda, no, you're not going to like it. You need to rip that back out and do it again. So I did, and I redid it, and I kind of figured out that I needed to keep the stitches in line so that I didn't increase stitches all the way along, including the sleeves, and it worked out just fabulous. So for those of you who have never crocheted, or if you've crocheted a little bit but would like to do a garment, I highly, highly, highly recommend that you do this. I'm going to show you the yarn, excuse the crinkling. I did not want to spend money on this because I didn't really know what I was doing. Sorry for the crinkling. I didn't really know what I was doing. So I just went to Walmart and I bought Lion Brand Mandala Ombré in the Felicity colorway. So as you can see, it's kind of charcoaly black and some rosy pinks, and then some really almost white pink, and then a little bit of rose goldy color. And it is probably a DK weight, but I held it double. And I just started with 2 skeins that started with gray, and I just held them together, and this is what happened on the body. Yay. On the sleeves, I did a little bit of yarn management where I was pulling from different parts of the skeins to sort of get a little bit of a match, not too matchy, because you can see these sleeves are totally different. But it took me 4 skeins. So this is a $40 sweater. So $40 is still not cheap in my mind, but compared to indie dyed yarn, wow, this is pretty cool. And this is a thick erin weight, bulky weight, I'd say, bulky weight sweater. But funnily enough, I mean, it's 25 degrees Celsius here. Because it's crochet and it has so many holes in it, it's actually rather comfortable in the heat. And this is 100% acrylic, 100% acrylic. Anyway, like I said, I started it, I got all the way down, it turned into a tent, I ripped it all the way back, and what I can say is from the videos, they give you a formula of choose the number of stitches you want for your neck and then put 10% on each shoulder. That didn't work for me. I literally did a quarter, a quarter, a quarter, a quarter. So a quarter of the stitches for the front, a quarter of the stitches for each shoulder, and a quarter of the stitches for the back. And then I followed the increasing program, just increasing every round, and it worked really well for my shape, which is quite square. So I'm just like, seriously, in a week, a sweater in a week. I gotta love it. Now, almost 3/4 sleeves, if you want to think of it that way. But I could have done them a bit longer, but I just wanted to finish it. So I was just so excited, and I'm going to do more of these. Honestly, if you want a quick fix and you want something that is cozy, and I mean, I think I have a new appreciation for acrylic. I thought I was a yarn snob. Well, I just think it's beautiful and I love it. I had so much fun making it. There is no pattern. Again, I'll link the 2 YouTubes that I looked at to sort of start. And honestly, I only looked at them for the yoke to start. Everything else I just did on my own, hit and miss. And I ripped it out, came back, ripped it out. And that's the fun thing about crochet. It goes so fast with a 7mm hook. So this was a 5.5 millimeter hook for the collar, for the ribbing, only on the neck, just on the neck. Everything else, including the ribbing at the end, was a 7mm hook. So anyway, just absolutely in love with it. It was so much fun. So that's finished object number 1. Totally a surprise to me, and hence all my knitting went on the back burner because, hey, I got completely distracted by crochet. And that's why this is more of a fiber podcast than a knitting podcast, because I aspire to do all the things. I don't necessarily do them well, but I aspire to do all of them. Anyway, so total adventure on my part. I absolutely loved it. I highly recommend. If you have any questions about what I did, just email me at nanaknits@gmail.com or at DM me on Instagram for the fun of knit with 2 T's, for the fun of knit. And I will happily respond. My next finished object, and I'll put down here the mystery knit along, not the mystery knit along, just the knit along that I was doing. I was doing the Muscle Burrow knit along, and everybody and their brother, I think, has knit this hat. And I thought, oh, I've got so many scraps. This was really a scrappy project. And look at this. These are a selection of my pink and cream speckled sort of scraps that I've acquired over time. And I thought, what better use than making a muscle burra hat? So we're going to try it on. Yeah, it's a little big, but not when you roll up the brim. When you roll up the brim, it fits perfectly. And of course, never mind my bangs. My bangs don't work well in a hat, but there you go. This is the Muscle Burrow one way. So there you go, scrappy. Love it. And then I decided to do more of a neutral, just using, I had a lot of this color yarn, which is a Malabrigo, is it Malabrigo or was it Madeline Tosh Coneflower? I can't remember. It's a scrap. Guys, I don't remember. Anyway, I decided to do it holding mohair. And see, it looks like it's too big, but it's not when you pull it up. And I don't wear my bangs like that, so when you pull it up, what I will say, look at this. I absolutely love it, love it, love it, love it. What I will say is that because this side because I held it together with mohair, it's almost like a DK weight. And so, I don't know, did anybody else get little ears? So I've got 4 little pokies. Now I have not blocked this hat, but I've got 4 little pokies. So first of all, look at that. Isn't it beautiful? It turns out to be a square. Well, mine did. I don't know if that's supposed to be that way, if that's a misadventure maybe, but my adventure turned out to be a square. And my decreases definitely, because the wool is thicker and I have not blocked it, create these little ears. I don't mind them, actually. But on the fingering side, which is just all singles, all these yarns are singles, again, it's a bit of a square, but no, it's well-rounded. Like there's no ears sticking out of that. But that is my Musselburgh hat. Fluff. Okay, mohair. I love it. It makes me very, very happy to look at all of these little, I have got so much spare sort of waste yarn or little remnants that I didn't know what to do with it. I've got to make more of these because literally between socks and this kind of a thing, it's a great way to get rid of all your little leftovers. Funny thing about the needles, it's a 3.25 millimeter needle, which I used, but trying to find the right type of needle to knit this was challenging. I started, and if you're not familiar with the Musselburgh, this is what it looks like. You start at one end, you do a whole bunch of increases, and then once you get to your desired size, you just knit, 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 knit. For me, it was 20.5 inches, and then you start your decreases. And then you just fold it inside, in on itself. So how I started it was on 9-inch circulars with 3.25 millimeter needles. And that really worked until I decided to add mohair. And then it got really tight, you know, like crunchy. There was too many stitches almost on the needle. So I thought, okay, well, I'll go magic loop. So I decided to do magic loop with stainless steel hias at 3.25 millimeter, just I think it was a 30-inch cord. And I did that for a while, but you know what, the sliding back and forth, normally I don't mind. Like socks, I'll do magic loop, doesn't bother me at all. But with this, having to shove the stitches over all the time, for some reason was kind of annoying. And so then I thought, okay, well, I'll go back to the 9-inch cord, but I'll put a 5-inch needle, Chaigu needle on one end, and the small little, not the teeny shorty, but the longer shorty from my shorty set on the other side. And it was perfect. That was the perfect recipe on a mini cable for knitting this hat. So note to self, I will do that again. I will just start with a 9-inch circular with the shorties, and then I will go and just replace the left hand needle with a 5-inch. And then I can just zoom around without having to shove my stitches everywhere. And it won't get too clogged. It won't get too crowded on the needle and on the cord. So again, Musselburgh by Ysolda Teague. I think it's Yolanda, yes it is. And absolutely loved knitting it. It was a lot of fun. Sorry, I've got fluff now. Fluff and hair everywhere. Fluff and hair. But thoroughly enjoyed it, and those are my 2 finished objects for this very 1st of October. So stoked about that. Works in progress. See, I don't know if ever... Sorry. Computer likes to blink out every now and then. I don't know how you store all of your scraps, This is just a sampling. I have a huge, massive plastic bin from Canadian Tire full of partial skeins, little mini skeins, remnants for toes and socks and whatever. And I like to put them in a bowl to display some of them. But I literally have a container that is like, I don't know, 2.5, 3 feet by 1.5 feet by 2 feet, like full of scraps. So I either have to do a blanket of some sort, or I have to do something a little bit more than than socks if I want to get and use some of those scraps. So that was my scrappy project. And again, I will put a note here for the knit along that I was joining, and you can still join if you haven't. The knit along goes until October 15th, so you got 2 more weeks. Yay. And if you're not doing the Stephen West mystery knit along, you should be good. You should be good. Okay, so works in progress. Let's start with the easiest ones first. Okay, so my Christmas socks. These are just vanilla socks that I am knitting. Please excuse how messy these look, because there's method to my madness. There is. These socks are my, let me turn them the right way up. Bling! These are my Christmas at Hogwarts socks. The yarn is from Molly of Homespun House. Notice how it's pooling, but I love it. I absolutely love it. And I'm doing it in a knit 3 slip one. So I'm getting a little bit of a ribbing, and I started with 72 stitches this time. And I'm doing it on 2.25 needles. And my ribbing is a 2x2 ribbing, 2x2 ribbing. But this, I decided to do a 72 stitch sock because when I did a 64 stitch sock, which is my normal size, and I tried to do this slip stitch pattern where you slip every fourth stitch, they wouldn't go over my feet. And that's because when you slip a stitch and just knit the next stitch, you're in effect taking this stitch out of your count. So keep that in mind if you're ever doing this pattern. And so what I did is I did top down. Normally I'm a toe up person, and I like doing toe up because then I can use as much of the yarn as I like. But for some reason, I don't know why, I did cuff down, and I at some point decided, you know what, I've got a long enough leg. I am now going to start knitting the foot. And so the bottom of the foot has to be just stockinette. So I'm doing the pattern on the top, but just stockinette on the bottom. And then I knit all the way down here, and I thought, how am I going to know where to put the toes if I don't have any heels? Because normally when you do cuff down, you do either a heel flapping gusset, or you do a short row heel, you do something. You don't normally do an afterthought heel, at least I don't. If you're doing a pattern. If you're just doing a vanilla sock all the way down, it doesn't matter. Just knit the whole tube and then put your toes in and then come back and measure where you want to put the heel. But because I was doing this slip stitch and had to stop for the bottom of the foot, just put stockinette, I thought, oh, I'm going to run into trouble. I'm not going to know where to put my toes. So I decided to do afterthought heels first before I continued. So this is my adventure. I did an afterthought heel, so I knit this far, which I know is going to be way too short. Sorry, I've got, my hair is for some reason hanging in my face. See, it's, I don't know. See, my hair is, maybe it's static. That could be. So I just put in, I cut in, I did my needles. I found the two rows that I wanted to work with, leaving one row in between, and it's that in between row that you actually cut. And so I have just started my afterthought heels, and I am using a mini that is from, who is this? This is a Hue Loco mini. I can't remember what the colorway is called, but but I hope you can see, but there's just this little fleck of tealy green in this skein. You can see it there a bit all the way. And it is just being picked up by this beautiful mini for the heels and the toes. So almost finished those. I'm going to finish those hopefully this week. That's work in progress number 1. And that is in my, who is this? This is in one of my Quanta Fibers. She no longer exists anymore as a business, unfortunately. Christmas project bags. My next work in progress is the Tassels in the Sky shawl, which is a 1 skein shawl. It's actually a 2 skein shawl because you hold it together with mohair. And this is mine. I am just loving it. It is absolutely gorgeous. It is turning out to be a totally rose gold, and you choose a boucle. It's not a boucle. It's, what is this yarn? Is it boucle? Is it boucle? Where are my glasses? Oh, where are my glasses? I've lost my glasses somewhere along the line. Okay, this yarn is, oh no, it's a slub. That's what you call it. So this yarn is Sweet Skein of Mine, Lady Marmalade. Look at that. It is coppers and rose and pinks, and oh, it's just lovely. And it's a slub. It's 90% superwash merino, 10% nylon, and it has 437 yards. And it's held together with her mohair, silk mohair. This is actually a Christmas colorway called Rudolph. And the two of them together, they have exactly the same colors and flecks in them. And so I thought it would make a perfect complement. And so I'm getting this beautiful rose gold slubby shawl that is so easy to knit. It is absolutely TV knitting. You literally, it's a free pattern, Tassels in the Sky. Thank you, Kelly and Noelle of Knits and Pieces, for enabling me on this pattern, but I just love it. I'm on a mission to knit as many 1 skein shawls as possible. You could do it without the mohair if you're not a mohair fan, but just look at the slubs. Oh, I love it. It just adds such a nice detail, such an element, which is so much fun. Anyway, so that is work in progress. There's no set date. Whew, hot flash. Whoo. There's no set date for me to finish that particular one, but I'm working on that. That is a work in progress number 2. Work in progress number 3 is a segue into, I think my sweater is also just a little hot for right now, but I'm not taking it off because I just love it too much. It's so pretty. It's so pretty, but it's warm. Okay, my 3rd work in progress you have seen before. And you know I have those long-standing whips. So the last long-standing whip I was working on was my Estrellas Pullover, which I have not progressed on. I'll get there eventually. You guys know me. But this is something that if you go back in previous episodes, you will recognize. This is, oh, I'm in the middle of a row. Oh, darn it, darn it, darn it, darn it. Am I really in the middle of a row? I am. Where are my needles? Oh my goodness, I better put caps on so I don't. Oh, put needle stoppers on, otherwise I'm gonna stitch stoppers, whatever you call them. Okay. So this is my Slipstravaganza from Stephen West. So this is my Christmas version of a Slipstravaganza. And I don't know when I showed it to you last, but I am now working on the very last section, which is the chevrons. And this has been a misadventure and an adventure. Oh my goodness. If you have not watched my podcast before, You would not know, but this was not the colors I did for this section. I knit all of this section and all the way to halfway down here and realized I didn't like this honeycomb section. I didn't like the colors I chose. So I didn't frog it. No, I cut it out. I cut it out right where all these holes are. And I don't know if you can see that or not, these holes. So my holes are probably a little bit bigger than what is suggested in the actual pattern because I cut them, I preserved all the joining stitches and I just knit them, I grafted them to this bottom section. That was the adventure and it worked. So I guess the moral of that story is, folks, you don't have to frog everything. Just see if you can cut it up and reattach it somehow and see if it'll work. Be adventurous with your knitting. So that is what has happened so far. And I'm liking it a lot better now that I've changed the colors away from yellow and green. There's still a little bit of yellow in it. And I'm keeping this green, which is a totally different green than I used before. And now I'm just on the last border section. I have about that much more and Slipstravaganza will be completed. So that is a work in progress. The yarns on this, oh, I don't even remember anymore. All the inlay, like all the Stellina yarns, these colored ones have Stellina in them. They're all Black Cat custom yarns in their Blingtron base, a variety of colors. This speckled one, I do believe is it Zen Garden or it's Artful? I can't remember which. And the really beautiful dark red is, I want to say, Fleece Artist. And it is in there, just 100% singles merino. Now, the other adventure / misadventure that I have to think about is I've never knit with red before, and I have since read that when you're dealing with those highly saturated colors, you should probably pre-wash your yarn. That would have been a really good thought. Because now I'm worried, is this dark red gonna run into all the cream and the mohair and everything else that I'm using? I don't know. Oh well, we'll have to see. We're just gonna have to use a lot of those color fast sheets and hope that I'm lucky. I think it's gonna bleed. I really do think it's gonna bleed. But hopefully it won't absorb into the other yarns if I have those color sheets in, and I'll put a lot of them. I'll overload it. So stay tuned for that. And the reason I picked this up again is because, of course, it's October, which is the Stephen West Mystery Knit-Along month. And again, that's starting. So this is kind of a segue into getting prepared for that mystery knit along. So really excited about that. But before I talk more about it, I just want to show you some other Stephen West shawls that I have knit. And for example, this is Speckle and Pop. So this is Speckle and Pop. I hope you can see it, which is a beautiful, beautiful shawl and a very unique shape. Look at this. It's got this like total sickle sort of end on it that really makes for a fun drape when you put the shawl on. And the yarns that I used were just a combination of grays. So you need 3 main colors in a fade. So I had a light green, light gray, which was Dutch Sky, which was West Wools. Then I had an unknown medium grain gray skein, and then I had this dark skein. Can't remember what these skeins are anymore. Dark gray. And the beautiful colors inside. Now, in the pattern, they suggest that you use different colored minis. I happen to have a skein of Ancient Arts Socknado in the colorway I met Stephen West and I liked it. That was the name of the skein, which is why I bought it. And I was just going to hold it. And look at this. Oh my goodness. I decided to put it in a Stephen West shawl and it turned out just beautiful. So this, I'm showing you this. If you've watched me before, you've seen it before. But this was actually one of his mystery knit-alongs. And so I know I've heard a lot of people say, well, you know what? I don't really like to do Stephen West because he's really flamboyant with the colors and his design elements, you know, are very adventurous. And, you know, my tastes are a little bit more classical. And so maybe it's not a good fit. What I would say to that is yes to all of that, of course, and that's what appeals to me, is just that absolutely no rules, no limitations, just go for it and see what happens, you know. What I would recommend if you haven't done it before, or this is your first time that you're doing the Stephen West knit along, choose colors that you enjoy. So absolutely follow his instructions for a color pop and, you know, fades and gradients or whatever. But really choose colors that you like and colors that you wear in your wardrobe. Then you can't really go wrong. But as for the shapes, look at this beauty. I think this is office work wear if you know, wear it over, you know, anything black, anything pink. It's just beautiful. It's a beautiful shape. So this is an example of a Stephen West shawl that I wanted to share with you. The other Stephen West shawl that I wanted to share with you is Vertices Unite. And again, for those of you not familiar with Stephen West, he really challenges you to put colors together that you normally wouldn't put together. And he puts shapes, and his construction is so fun, but not all of them are complicated. This was a very easy shawl to make. So this is Vertices Unite, which is just a whole bunch of different triangles and rectangles put together, and asymmetrical shapes as well, put together and finished off with an I-cord binding. If I'm not mistaken, this was also a mystery knit. I could be wrong on that, so don't feel like you need to correct me, but I thought this was one of his mystery knits, but I could be wrong. Because don't forget, Stephen West has been doing his mystery knits, I think, for 13 years. So, and this is only my third one. Last year's was a little bit more out there. So, again, this is where I say choose colors that you enjoy wearing. It doesn't matter, because you do not know what the shawl is going to look like. All we know is it's called Twist and Turns, and that's all. And we know that we need 2 skeins of a main color, 2 skeins of a contrast color, and 1 skein of a pop. So you need 5 skeins. Whatever you choose, if you've never done this before and you're not super comfortable with color, just choose colors that you really enjoy wearing. For example, last year was called Shawlography. And I like bold colors in my shawls, not in my clothing necessarily, but in my shawls, I do like bold colors. And he gave some color instruction about contrast, about, you know, how much contrast, about tones, about depth of color, variegated versus tonal, having some neutrals. And some people might like this shawl, some people will not like it. For example, I love it. It is a shawl that I will wear on occasion with the right outfit. It is not an everyday shawl. It's called Shawlography. My mother does not like the colors of my shawl because they just don't speak to my mom. They speak to me, and I'll tell you why. This is Shawlography, which is 2021's Mystery Knit Along. And this is just an absolute cornucopia of adventurous knitting. Everything from just, excuse me, my computer likes to cut out, just from doing, putting these pie shapes together and then doing this beautiful bordered inlay in triangles, and then these I-cord, we called them shrimps. Somebody coined them as shrimps. But again, what a feature. And then taking one of your variegated yarns and doing just a little bit of brickwork. And then we had never done these little marshmallow tufts. Look at these little poofies. Doing some poofs and then some more sort of slip stitch triangle patterns. And then you get to do some baubles. And then he does some construction where you're doing short rows to make a pie chart. And oh yes, then you get to try your hand at some brioche, not in every one of his patterns, but in this one. And what I would say, he's always gives you the option to not do brioche. So if brioche freaks you out and you've just had far too much adventure so far and you want to be a little bit calmer, then you don't need to do the brioche. And then he had these, yarn over things that created this mesh. And then he had this really fun diagonal kind of a border, striped border on the bottom. Now mine is very much a Dia de los Muertos, Mexican festival kind of Halloween sort of shawl. But it's also very lovely for an evening out shawl. It's quite dressy because of the bold colors if you're wearing it on a black dress or even a white dress. So that's how I would wear it. But it's not an everyday shawl for me. The colors are woo out there, but I absolutely love it. And I enjoyed the process. I had no idea what I was doing, but I thoroughly enjoyed the process. And I'm anticipating this year's is going to be no different. It's probably going to be a bit calmer in color because there's only 3 color choices you need to make. In this one, you needed 5 color choices. So think about that. Last year's you needed 5 color choices. This year you only need 3 color choices. So it's going to be a little bit more cohesive in terms of the color palette. But that was shawlography. So that just sort of gives you an idea of some of the Stephen West patterns. And now I'm going to show you what the yarn choices and my thought process was for this year's. Now, if you watched my family cast with my mom and my sister, you will have seen some of this. So bear with me as I just try and pull this out of here. Get out of there. There we go. Okay. This is truly the color palette that I was working with. And it's funny, as I get older, I'm gravitating more to pinks. Look at this thing. I'm a brunette, so my pre-gray hair color is brunette, like dark, medium dark, reddish brown. Anyway, now that I'm completely not brown, this is au naturel, it's pretty much white, I tend to gravitate more towards the pinks. I don't know why. But my whole raison d'etre was that I was not going to buy a kit. I was going to work from stash. What I wanted was I wanted to get the bag, which you get, which is the Stephen West bag. And it came with little tidbits. And do I have the tidbits in here? It came with a needle gauge in it. And it came with some sort of a sticker. I don't have it right now. I have to put it somewhere. But it came with a label and it came with a sticker. And really what I wanted was the bag. I did not see that at the bottom of their website there was the option to buy just the bag. So I laugh because it was a misadventure, because the yarns that I chose, I have to think about this now. Now, which ones were his and which ones are the ones that I Gosh, okay. So the yarns that I chose were Life in the Long Grass, the Life in the Long Grass kit. This beautiful, where is it now? Why do I think I'm missing two? Life in the Long Grass, and these pinks, and then with these sort of dusty gray purple with the same color pink. And then the pop was this beautiful color. That is Life in the Long Grass, just singles, single merinos. This one is called Wild Rose Bay. This softer one is called Crush in the middle. And this one is called Rouge. So you need two of a main color, two of a contrast. You can see there's a good contrast there, and one pop of color. So that is the kit that I bought. And then the fun began because then I realized, OMG. And I've gone through this story before. I had these beautiful yak merino silk skeins from Shirley Bryan Yarns in Braverman, the Braverman color wheel, which is a really eggplant aubergine. Then I also had these Suburban Stitches single merinos in a colorway called Predictability that had, sorry, my hair is everywhere now, that had these dark purple flecks in them. So I had two of those. And then I also had this beautiful skein of Zen Garden merino cashmere nylon for a pop. So I had that as an option. So there you go. That was another thing. Then I also, so okay, just to make this very short, next year, I now know I can order just the bag because I will be doing this again next year. I can order just the bag and I can use one of these sets or something else that I come up with because I have other sets that I could use. But I gravitated this year towards pink. So I also have my Hedgehog singles in Cheeky, along with Fleece Artist in Belle Rose. Look at those. Now, a much more subtle contrast, still a contrast, but subtle, with Pinky Swear as the contrast, as the pop of color. Oh my gosh, I love all of these. I love them. Look at them, they're beautiful. So interestingly enough, what we decided, because I did seek the advice of my new knitting friends that we meet every Friday at 1 o'clock and we chat, and honest to goodness, we're together for 4 hours. We hit it off just like wildfire, and we are all similar, and we just love knitting, love travel, love yakking, love coffee, love goodies. It's all good. Anyway, what we decided was, I have to think about what we decided now. What did we decide? Oh, we decided that I should sub out this beautiful pink because this is the secondary main color. I should sub out the pink for the purple, more dramatic. So this is softer, love it. This is more dramatic, right? And the color pop, this is the color pop. I think this is the color pop we decided on. So we decided on those as opposed to those. So don't know what you think, but that's what I'm going with. So now it is time for me to skein these up. And so when I talk about my next week's vlog, I will do a little filming of skeining them up. And talking a little bit about Clue 1, but that is my color choice. So it's a combination of Life in the Long Grass and Shirley Bryan yarns. So I cannot wait. I'm so excited for this. So, but needless to say, I do not need to buy yarn for next year's for next year's mystery knit along because I have choices. So again, find colors that you like to wear, and you won't go wrong. You won't go wrong. So if this is your first time, it is very, very exciting. And I did think about, because I did have a request from one of the viewers to put together a Zoom sort of knit along. I would love to, but I'm just not savvy enough on Zoom yet. I'm looking into it. Maybe next year I can do some knit alongs on Zoom, because I'd like, if I was going to do a knit along online, like virtual knit along, I'd like us all to be able to see each other. So I would like us all to be able to talk and actually interact, which would be lovely, especially if we're going to do a knit along with a specific project in mind. So stay tuned. It won't happen for Stephen West. Excuse me, it won't happen for Stephen West, but I will continue to work on that. So that is all of the knitting content. I did go to Knit City on the weekend. Okay, are you sitting down? This is the only thing that I came home with, was the Knit City bag. Can you believe it? Who am I? There was so many beautiful, beautiful yarns there. But every time I looked at a yarn, I kept thinking, I've got something like that in my stash. So my mom bought yarn. We will go over that when she's a guest the next time. We will check out the yarns that she bought. But this time I actually didn't buy any yarn at all. I did want to buy something from the Crafty Jackalope from Amanda, but she was out of it, so I have to go online and order it, which is more of a taupe sparkle yarn. Oh, glam, super glam. So I would have bought that, but she didn't have enough skeins with her at the show, so she told me to order it online, which I will do. But that said, through that exercise, and I've actually been talking about this for a couple months now, is I am going through my yarns and I am going to do a destash. And I'm going to do the destash in two ways. I am going to announce the destash in segments on my YouTube channel. So at the end of all my chatter, I'll probably show, 5 or 6 pictures of yarn that's available. And then I'll also put them on Instagram. And literally it's going to be the first person to email me. It's going to be email. Gets first dibs, and then payment for those will have to be through e-transfer within 48 hours. That's the only way I can think of doing it. But I have some beautiful yarns. I have some sweater quantities of yarn. I have lots of single skeins and socks, all sorts of socks. I have tonals, speckled, variegated. I have sock sets. I have lots of yarn to share. So it's going to be a work in progress. I have to still think about logistics, but stay tuned. And if you have any suggestions on the best way to do it, by all means, feel free to comment, because I have yarn that I'm always keep a little bit of yarn back because I like to do giveaways. I think that's half the fun. If I can inspire you to knit for the first time, or knit something different, or knit for someone else, I think that's absolutely wonderful. So it is my pleasure to be able to gift some yarn to you, even including the shipping. So why don't we do that? Why don't we do a bit of a giveaway? Okay, so this is the first of probably 4 videos that I'm going to do in the month of October regarding, it's not Vlogtober because I'm not doing it every day, but I am going to do regular updates in October of my Stephen West progress. And so I'd like to do some giveaways. For this week's giveaway, you need to make a comment on my video of any kind, and you get to choose from one of 4 prizes, one of 4 giveaways. And literally, so the last week will be what's ever left over, because this week the person gets a choice out of 4 giveaways. Next week, a choice of the remaining 3, the following week, a choice of the remaining 2, and the last week is you get what you get. So the first one is a Molly Klein Scooby-Doo mini set. So these are Halloween minis themed after Scooby-Doo, and so they are, sorry for the crinkling, Scooby, Shaggy, Velma, Fred, Daphne, and Mystery Machine. So this is from the movie, as well as a little mini Halloween puzzle. Now this is not kid friendly, so please be careful because these pieces are itty bitty, but a little Halloween puzzle. So that's one option. The next option is a beautiful skein from Ginger Snap, and this is called Inside My Head. It is her lush fingering weight. It's 75.25, and you get 463 yards. So this, and it's got, I don't know if you can see it, but it's got just the tiniest fleck of purple. So perfect for those Halloween socks. So that is option number 2. Option number 3 is also Ginger Snap, and this is called I'm 100% That Witch. And again, it's her lush fingering, 463 yards, 75.25. And this is a beautiful skein as well. And again, it's purple with just a hint of orange. So that is option number 3. And option number 4 is a cozy knitter sock set in the Bliss base in her Ghoulish colorway. So this is self-striping, and look, you've got a beautiful contrasting lavendery purple, but the stripes are orange and gray and cream and purple. I think there's 2 colors of purple. No, just purple. Purple, orange, gray, and cream. And then you get the same purple as the contrast. So you can choose any one of those 4 options by just leaving a comment, and I will do the random comment picker on the next video. So that, my friends, is everything. Make a comment about anything that you would like on this video. Tell me, like, I know there was a whole bunch of people doing the Stephen West Cal from my last video that I did, and I can't remember, I think there was 53 of you. Wow, that is, I cannot wait to see some of those shawls. But feel free to make any kind of a comment that you like, and your name will go into a draw. Maybe you want to say which prize you would like to win. Make it as simple as that. A comment, which prize would you like to win of the 4, and that makes it easy. So if you're the winner, I already know what to send you. So we'll do it that way. Okay, on that note, everyone, thank you so much for your time and for choosing to spend it with me. I hope I kept you company for a little bit, and I look forward to seeing you hopefully in the next week. Take care. Bye-bye.